Our next inductee into the Australian Media Hall of Fame is Ian Carroll. And I'm very pleased to say that we're joined tonight by Ian's widow, Geraldine Doogue. Geraldine, he was a fantastic man. I know that firsthand, having worked with the ABC for a long time as well. Tell us about Ian's approach to journalism.
Well, look, I always think that Ian thought big. He was no snob. He could do the most basic stories. I've been sitting there trying to think of some of the terrible stories he sent us out on. He had a very good, basic, populist sense, but he had that lovely hybrid ability. He always thought big. He was never satisfied. Mark's quite right. He was never satisfied with sort of a small angle. And we all used to, I can remember during Gulf War I, I can remember that day 2 of the Gulf War, when we had a whole lineup, which was hard enough in a wartime, and then they started firing Scuds into Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, and we all looked at him, we all knew everything was up in the air, everything would start again. And that was Ian, and everybody knew it and loved to do it. So it was that big thinking that was such a thrill.
And was it challenging at the time? He set up Lateline. He was the driving force between the success that the ABC's digital stream is now. Was it challenging for him at the time to, I guess, bring others with him?
Well, it was, and Bruce Belsham's in the room here, who was just a marvellous. In fact, when Bruce came to work with him on innovation, I remember thinking to myself, this is real. This is real now. That's probably my problem, but look, I think people. He had to make the great translation from news gathering into innovation. And he said to me once something I've never forgotten. He said, they think you need to be young to actually work out where it's all going. In fact, you need often a wise old head to work out what is not worth pursuing and what might be worth pursuing. It's full of potholes, and you have to be ready to take that on board. And I think he did bring that in.
And finally, we know about Ian's many achievements, but it wasn't really until after his death back in 2011 that you found out about the impact he had on so many other journalists.
Yes, look, I knew that I saw him hire people over many years, but I was stunned at the numbers who came up to me, and I can't name them for you now, but people who came up to me sort of one after the other to say, he gave me something I didn't even know was in myself. So he could spot talent, and he could spot potential. He could also spot it when he thought people had reached their limits, by the way, and sometimes that could be very difficult when he sort of said they're not going any further, and I was saying, well, are you sure? But he just did have that capacity. I think it's one of the great abilities, actually.
Geraldine Doogue, it's been fantastic speaking to you. Thank you.
Thank you.